Welcome to another day of adventures with Wes and Jeff, and today I'm in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I traveled from California back to Nashville, then I drove the remainder of the way to the eastern part of Tennessee where it borders North Carolina and the Appalachian Mountains. This is park number 35 for me on my bucket list to see all of the national parks. At every park, I stop at the visitor center to get information and speak to the rangers about the environment. This one is unique because it tells you about all of the unique animals that frequent and make this place their home, like the black bear and the mink. Stick around and I'll show you more about what things to see and do and the hiking trails in this wonderful park. In my first hike, this is to Cateract Falls. It's just about a half a mile or so from the visitor center, the Sugarlands Visitor Center. There are 4 visitor centers here in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And this, I always like to take pictures of the nice little bridges that they put across the streams. I'm gonna flip the camera around. It's a nice little babbling brook here. They haven't had as much rain as they normally do this time of year. They get up to 85 inches of rain here in the Great Smoky Mountains, but it's a nice little bridge that the National Park Service has put in here so that people could take a walk. This is earlier in the morning. It's around 9:30, and nice little babbling brook that's coming from the falls. So I'm going to continue my way on up the path here and go up to the falls. I am at Clingman's Dome, and it's this observation tower that you can see off in the distance over the Smoky Mountains into 7 different states. So you have to hike up here. It's a 300-foot climb up this long 0.5 or a half of a mile distance path, and there's a visitor center at the base. Tells you all about it. I'm gonna flip the camera around so you can see this wonderful view. So these are the Smoky Mountains. What what makes them smoky? It's not the actual smoke in the air, because there's very little smoke in the air. It's actually because of the plant life. The plant life ejects this small particles, and when the sun hits it, it actually makes it look a blue cast. So it makes it this smoky blue color. And so this is the highest point of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park at 6,643 feet. And the lowest point is like 867 feet. But this park is unique in that it's the largest on the east coast of the United States, as well as it is exactly the same size as Yosemite in California. But it's a different shape. It's more tall than wide. So this is the actual ramp that you come up in order to come to the observation deck here at Clingman's Dome. And some of the history of this is when this park was formed back in 1934, this park was actually going to be logged almost completely down to make it almost like a desert because of the lumber companies and the paper companies and the demand for paper and lumber back in those days. But the federal government came along and said, we want to make this a national park. We want to preserve this area. And thanks to Calvin Coolidge, our president back in those days, in the late 20s, and Franklin D. Roosevelt, this became a national park and the largest on the east coast of the United States. And this park actually saved a lot of these trees. They had to buy a lot of the land from the folks that had settled here, and a few of them homesteaded, and the last ones to leave here was in 2002. So pretty interesting. But they had to come up with the funds in order to make this a national park, right? Well, back in those days, it was hard to come up with funds. The two states that this park borders, which is North Carolina and Tennessee, came up with some of the funds, but the rest of the funds had to be raised. And guess who stepped up? It was America's wealthiest person back in the day. It was the Rockefeller family. And it was the son of Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, that actually donated $5 million back in the day. And the only stipulation that he had when he donated that money to this national park to make it a national park, a treasure for all of us to enjoy, was that there be a plaque here placed at Smoky Mountain National Park in his mother's name. And his mother was Laurel Rockefeller. So her plaque is here at the park in his honor and for donating that $5 million in order to make this one of our national treasures. And I have just hiked the 300 foot climb up to Clingman's Dome. And just off of Clingman's Dome, there is a little side trail that takes you to the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail is 2,184 miles long, and it bisects and comes through this park, 70 miles of it. So I just wanted to jump off this main little trail that goes up to Clingman's Dome and just walk a few steps on the Appalachian Trail, just say that I've done it. Because in the West Coast, in California, we have the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, that runs from Mexico all the way up to Canada. But this one runs all the way from Maine all the way down to Georgia. So it's quite a feat. People make it a bucket list item to do those hikes. And so I just thought it would be interesting to come over to the Appalachian Trail and walk a few steps on it. So I'm just gonna flip the camera around. They have these markers on the Appalachian Trail that tell people, you know, where they are. And this particular marker just says that, hey, you want to take a little side trip? You can go up to Clingman's Dome and get a 360-degree view of the Great Smoky Mountain National Park and look into 7 different states: North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, all those southern states and eastern states back here. So this is the Appalachian Trail, and it goes on down the hill from here, but they get some really great views of the Great Smoky Mountains on their way, on their trek from Maine down to Georgia. This park is the most visited park of all of the parks in the national park system. There are 14.1 million visitors last year. I think a lot of it was due to COVID, but they average about 10 to 11 million per year. So last year was a record year for them. But these are the Great Smoky Mountains over my left shoulder. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the park itself. Smoky Mountains National Park was established back in 1934. So it's like the largest park that they have on the east coast of the United States. So that's probably why it's the most visited park. But this used to be Cherokee land. The Cherokee Indians actually hunted and gathered, and they lived here for a long time before the white man came here. White man came here and started trying to farm this area. They started selling it off to some of the lumber companies and some of the construction, the lumber and the paper mills. So they wanted to protect this area. So they actually bought up all of those properties. There were just a few of them that remained. Some of those homesteaders, they willed it to some of their youngest grandchild, and the youngest one actually passed away in 2002 here in the park, and so now the whole park is the national park system. But the blue comes, that haze that you see is not from any smoke. There's no smoke, there's no fires in the area. It's from that blue haze there is natural. It's evaporation of water. It's evaporation of the water, the plant life. There's lots of plant life, and it's called transportation. Evaporation. I can't get it. But anyways, the park ranger is explaining it to me. It makes that blue cast when the sun hits it. And Appalachian Trail runs right through here. It's 70 miles through the park. It straddles both the state of, in some of it's in the state of North Carolina. The other part is in the state of Tennessee. So it's a pretty interesting park. I'm up here at Clingman's Dome, and it has a 360-degree view of these mountains and the bluish cast today. So it's a nice day. It's nice and cool up here because it's 6,643 feet. It's the highest point in the park. So it's pretty interesting facts and figures. There's a lot of hiking trails. There's 850 miles of hiking trails in this park alone. So I saw a snake today, a baby snake. There's salamanders. They have the most amount of salamanders. And I was asking the park ranger, hey, is there not an E in Smoky? And she's like, because it's not the bear. Smoky the bear has an E in his name. But the Great Smoky Mountains does not. It's just S-M-O-K-Y. This is an overcrossing that was built by the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, back in the 1930s. And it crosses the Newfoundland Gap Road, and it's a nice little stream here. I'm the only one here. It's kind of fun just to explore this area and find some of these nice little creeks and things that, you know, just so peaceful. So I just wanted to share it with everyone, and I just will flip the camera around, show you how the water cascades down in this little creek. It's by Chimney Tops. It's a trailhead. There's the creek, and the water was right through here. Nice. So it's right underneath that bridge. A lot of foliage, a lot of trees. This park is just full of trees. But this is a beautiful bridge that they made out of the stone that's native here. A lot of limestone. Different. Absolutely beautiful and peaceful. This little creek that runs through here. I'm the only one down here. It's a little picnic area up to the right-hand side over here. So people can picnic right along here. Great Smoky Mountains National Park, overlooking the city of Gatlinburg, Tennessee. One of their overlooks here. It's right at the edge of the park. I'm at Laurel Falls. It's about a 2.6 mile, it's not too bad, hike up to the falls. There's quite a few people here. Like I told you before, this is the most visited park, national park in the system. So there's 14 million people that come to this. But it's a nice little fall. I'm going to flip the camera on so you can get a wide angle of it. So this is the falls itself. Sorry. And it cascades from the top. It comes to a small little pool there, comes down into this pool. So it's nice and refreshing here. And and a lot of people have come here for a day hike and just enjoying it. It cascades across this little bridge, and then it cascades down there. So it's a nice little hike back in the woods. And then he's got these rock outcroppings as well. And there's the trail there that goes. People can actually bring their baby strollers because it is pavement, it's asphalt. So here's the other side of the falls, which I think is really pretty as well. So you walk across this little bridge. There's a little area where you can kind of change your clothes, and maybe put your feet in the water, cool off a little bit before you go back down. And it's a nice little hike. This is Laurel Falls here at Great Smoky Mountains National Park. A nice little pool down here. Really pretty, peaceful. And a lot of cascade over the rocks. This is called the Sinks, and this is a nice spot on the creek where on the river that cascades down. There's a bunch of kids jumping off of this and swinging out. You saw them splash there probably. Swinging on a rope off of that. It's kind of fun. Having a good time. So this is at Smoky Mountains, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.